Okay, Rabbi say. Let's see. There's a few interesting ha'aras. There's always some interesting stories. Let's see, Bez Hashem, where it takes us. Let's see, Bez Hashem, what's back to Bishul. My goal this week, so that you should know where we're headed, is we're basically finished now with Siv Hey, and we've been learning Siv Hey and Siv Tes somewhat together, which means I still haven't properly talked about salt and the ramifications of salt today, which is, of course, most of Siv Tes. And what I plan on doing is today, tomorrow, finishing up the inyanim of the kalim, the kli rishon, kli sheni, kli shlishi, including salt, which is doing hay and tes. I'm going to mention basically what's negayos to know in Sivav, Zayin, and Ches. Most of Zayin and Ches we learn in Rishon and Gimel. It's not for now, which allows us that after, it'll allow us that Bez Hashem after Shavuos to be starting from Siv Yud, which Mit Hashem is weiter toward the finishing of Bishul. That should take about another week, and then in Mit Hashem we'll go into the sugyas of Rishon and Gimel, which is the sugyas of Chazara and Shehiyah and Atmana. Legabe, if we successfully do what I want to do, that means finishing hay and tes today, tomorrow, finishing up with salt, basically today to talk about some more spices and products, tomorrow to finish up talking about salt. That'll leave us for Tuesday and Wednesday to talk about Shavuos. And we also did not talk about Erev Tavshilin, which I understand in America is Negeh this year. So that's hopefully the goal. The goal is Tuesday, Wednesday to be talking about Erev Tavshilin and to talking about Shavuos, and then we'll make a siyum in Mit Hashem on the 5th volume of the Mishnah Berurah. Since it's hard to believe we've been doing this for 9 weeks, but Rosh Chodesh, I guess, is the simon of that. And Bez Hashem, that's the goal. So in the shir, if you guys would be standing next to me, I'd tell you, don't slow me down, because then we could do on Tuesday and Wednesday, we could do Shavuos and Erev Tavshilin. Now that you're not here, it will only be my fault. So Bez Hashem, we should all have the siyata d'shmaya that we should finish today, tomorrow, hey test. Rabbi Yitzchak is putting up the test. The test obviously will go till Siv Hey and Siv, including Siv, hopefully it'll be Siv test also. But the Iker is really Gimel Dalet Hey and some of test. The item should have the test in before Shavuos. I don't think that there's an age limit on those that have to take the test. I'm including the little fiscus girls, and I'm including the older age chevra. Anybody from my age and up is not exempt. Not exempt. If anything, he's more responsible. You know who you are if that's negay you. At the end of this year, we'll discuss, hopefully, Bez Hashem, there seems to be a possibility of getting back mamish to the koilon. We'll talk about that hopefully at the end of this year. Bez Hashem. Erev Tavshilin is also in Eretz Yisrael. Hey, I think he's right. Hey, you know what? You're right. Erev Tavshilin is also in Eretz Yisrael. Right. Thank you. How come I didn't? Yeah, I guess he's right. Okay. If he's wrong, he's out of the koilot, but I think he's right. Akopanim. Yeah. So he's right. Yeah. Yeah, Erev Tavshilin. Thank you, Rabbi Spire. You're in the koilot for another week. Akopanim. So Erev Tavshilin, now for sure we have to talk about it because it's Negeya Eretz Yisrael. So Rabbi Moyle needs to know about it also. And with Hashem, we'll talk about that. That's Hashem. Okay, you're out of the koil and your wife's in the koil. Thank you, Rabbi Spire, for the honesty. That's number one. Number two, the Gabe. Let's get back into I have a lot of ha'aras over here. The Olam also, I have a lot of ha'aras at Toiv. The Olam sent me some nice ha'aras, and we'll try to, Bez Hashem, to remember them. One is that you do find, I was told already in different places in the Siman that there are places that you find Yad Nichvis and Yad Saledis, the terminology being interchanged. We explained that there might be a chilik, obviously, between Yad Nichvis and Yad Saledis. We explained the nafkaminas thereof, but it's just interesting, just to give you an example. I was just speaking somewhere, and one of the things that came up was Mayim Achreinim, and it came Merdik Ashkacha over here in Kuf Pei Aleph and Siv Gimel. It says Ein Noitlim B'Chamin. I'm sorry, I should go back a step. There's something called Mayim Achreinim. Mayim Achreinim is a chayva. I'm sorry. Let me explain. That's at the end of the meal. You're supposed to wash your hands. Then, if your hands are dirty, it's mamish mikra din, no matter who you are, even if you're a yaki. If your hands are not dirty, so then the shita of the Mishnah Berurah and the Paiskim is that you should wash mayim achreinim, right? That's something that not just the Rebbes do. That's something that's very important to do. Mayim achreinim is a chayva. Yushalmi as it's said that it's more of a chayva than the Natilas Yadayim of to prepare yourself for the meal. So mayim achreinim is a chayva. Anybody who wants more riches, go and look at the Shita, what we spoke about when we learned it in the first Seder Kailal, and it seems to be even ladies are chayiv. Ladies don't do it. They think that they're going to, maybe they'll grow a beard or something. I don't know. Mayim achreinim is a chayva. So Shulchan Aruch over here discussing this thing called mayim achreinim. So he says, make sure that when you wash mayim achreinim, you shouldn't wash your hands with yad nichvis water. You should. That's very important to remember, Abaisai. Once you decide to do mayim achreinim, don't go and do it with scalding hot water. Why? Why? Not because you're going to burn your hand, but because because what happens is it makes the water. It doesn't mavir the zayim. What it does is it cooks the shmutz into your hand, and I guess it cooks the melech staimis just into your hands. Says the Mishabur over here, a very understood statement. Says the Mishabura, lav dafka. We would all hope so. You're going to wash your hands with scalding hot water, so then you're not going to have hands. That they're going to get scalded. How much is that? It's the amount that a teenage's body would get scalded. So I'm just showing you that over here. You see two very interesting things over here. Over here, you see that sometimes the word nichves is interchangeable in at least the Sefer Shulchan Aruch, which we saw anyways. The Shulchan Aruch is not makbid. He's not mechalik between Yad Nichves and Yad Saledes. So that taka stims very well in the Shita Shulchan Aruch. That Yad Nichves and Yad Saledes are considered really the same thing in the Sefer of the Beis Yosef and the Sefer of the Shulchan Aruch, ad kedei kach that the Shulchan Aruch has no problem writing the words, don't wash your hands in Yad Nichves, because it's not going to work. Dainu be'etzim, theoretically, Yad Nichves and Yad Saledes is the same thing, and theoretically, people could wash their hands in it. Just don't do it because it's not going to work for mayim achreinim. That's what it says over here. So you see, first of all, the Shulchan Aruch interchanges Yad Nichves and Yad Saledes. That's number one. But number two, which I think is more important for us, and that's why you see the Shulchan Aruch didn't care about Yad Nichves. We spoke about this. And it seems to be Yad Nichves and Yad Saledes. There's no difference. And that's why he calls Yad Nichves, Yad Saledes, Yad Saledes, Yad Nichves. What's more important to me is that you see that something can be called Yad Saledes and you can still wash your hands in it. And we spoke about this many times, that we're going to see soon, like what exactly, we'll probably see this after Shavuos, what exactly is the shear of Yad Saledes by. And it's going to be quite shocking to some people that the shear are going to be given amounts which clearly people take hot baths in that amount, and it's clearly people think Yad Saledes means I can't go into it. That's absolutely not true. You see over here, the most the Mishabura said is that no, it doesn't mean scalding hot water, because scalding hot water you can't wash your hands in, but it does mean Yad Saledes. And you see, the Yad Saledes is a normal thing that a person would wash his hands in Yad Saledes. Just Kamash Malan for mayim achreinim, don't do it because it's not going to work. But you see that theoretically, you would be washing your hands in Yad Saledes water, which is very negeya mitzvah Shem when we see the actual amount. What's kaveya klapa Yad Saledes? That's number one. That's our number one. And our number two is, I spoke the other day. We spoke about Yisat Shmai about Davar Gush, and we spoke out that a Davar Gush is something that the Mishabura is machmir on, and we saw that the Mishabura does seem to care about a Davar Gush, even though it comes to Yad Nichves, it seems to be that the Shita's Mishabura is that Yad Nichves is only, and that was the Shita of Chayadam, and that was the Shita of Rav Moshe, and that was the Shita really Bemis of all the Paiskim, that nobody really was concerned about Yad Nichves by unto its own. For example, nobody worried about Yad Nichves by to put water in. They only added Yad Nichves by to give an extra warning on someone not to use Kali Bishul, even if a person was thinking about being Mako on Kali Bishul, but don't you dare on a Savik Kali Bishul, but don't you dare be Mako on Savik Kali Bishul if the water is absolutely scalding, whatever that is, 180, 190, whatever that is. That's how we explained the other day, the Shita of Mishabura, the Shita of Moshe, and that's the Halacha L'maisa. But that was all Gabi Yad Nichves. The Gabi Davar Gush, you see that the Mishabura was not as liberal. When it came to Davar Gush, the Mishabura does bring down Davar Gush in three places. So I was asked from Rabbi Bergman, he asked me a very pushy question: where's the nafkamina of Davar Gush? Hooray, we're anyways machmir. If it's a klirishin, it's a klirishin. Elmai, klisheni. So we're anyways machmer on klisheni because, like we said, a klisheni we're noyik to be chayshish that everything is a kale bishul. Elamai, we're saying that you should worry about a davar gush on a liquid that's nisbashal kvar that normally we would allow you to put into a klisheni, but now we're not going to let you put it in because it's a davar gush. First of all, I'm not so pashut. It's not so pashut to me that we are machmer because davar gush is a chumrah and bishul lach or bishul b'davar lach according to Rabbi Moshe the Chazanish is a chumrah. So I'm not sure how pashut that we would take both these chumras and be machmer. Oh, so I see over here that Rabbi Levin is telling me, so the only nafkamina, which is important to point out, is that we're going to be machmir on a davar gush in a kli shlishi. And that's what comes out. This entire chumrah of davar gush that we lalach are machmir. Where's the incredible nafkamina of it? And this I saw that Rishon Mizalman in the Mincha Shleima, Tinyana Beis Gimel in Siman Nun, he says, like the Chasam Sefer says, the gam bekli shlishi calls mancha got to let this by is dinoi kirisha, and I see that the Shmir Shabbos brings it down in Sif Samach Dalid. That comes out. It's very interesting. It just comes out. That's the ikar nafkamina of davar gush. The ikar nafkamina of davar gush, Rabbi Isai, is that when you have a cholent that even it was in a ladle and it's a davar gush, it doesn't have a liquid attaching it, let's say, to the walls. So then you have to worry about that cholent being boiling hot even inside your plate. Now I explained that I'm not going to be worried about things like breadcrumbs anyways, because when it comes to breadcrumbs, that's a davar ofui and ain afiyach arfiyah. And the most that the davar gush is going to be able to do is administer heat to a davar that is nefa, and on that we're going to say ain afiyach arfiyah. But it just comes out very important, Rabbi. I didn't madgish this. I didn't emphasize this the other day. But the ikar chumra of a davar gush is a kli shlishi. That we're going to be machmer on a davar gush and a kli shlishi. That's l'chayr the ikar. So if you have some, I don't know, some uncooked pepper that you like to put on a kli shlishi or something on a potato, I don't know, you're going to have to be worried about it. Any uncooked product, you're going to have to be worried has the din of a kli rishon. I suppose all spices, all uncooked spices, I suppose all uncooked spices. I'll say, I don't know what the Metzias is. I'm going to talk about this more tomorrow, the Metzias that I plan on looking into tonight. But all, spices and whatnot, pepper, just offhand. I mean, is pepper cooked? The regular peppers that we have, are they cooked? I don't think they're cooked. And if they're, I have here from my old notes, I don't think they're cooked. So the most we would be they're just dried, right? Oh, thank you. We're going to talk about this. This, you can't put pepper. Thank you. It seems to be that somebody asked, are there any geeks? It seems I have 40 of them. It seems to be that pepper is an uncooked spice. It's dried, and you won't be able to put it inside your cholent. It's very negaya. It's very, very negaya. You won't be able to put it inside your cholent, assuming your cholent is a davar gush and it doesn't have a liquids attaching it. Now, Rabbi Cooper reminded me of a diak that I had in a previous Gilgal, that he said that we had a diak that we were medayik in the Mishabura like the Ksav Sofer. If I'm not mistaken, the Mishabura, he told me this on Thursday. I think the Mishabura is in Sivkot Memhei. Over there, I talked about making sure that when you have this pcha juice, this most wonderful heated marak of pcha, something that just makes the mouth water and brings a certain feeling of warmth to our lave. And he says over here, the Rebbe, the Mishnah Berurah, writes like this. Let's see. I didn't check it since he told me. If he's not here, he's out of the kaidel. But he seems to say, the kain mashenoigim eza noshim kishaoitz meiragle behema. So what do? They take chatichas pas bekli ularis alav hamarak, and they pour the boiling hot water on it. So lo yafe meisim. He says, why? Tafilim lo yiten apas betchila achi yara hamarak tchila bekli. Haloi kasav ramah deish lizar. Ella, if they want to take the pas yamtin achaliya yad saledis in the marak. I'm not sure what the diak is now. Maybe Rabbi Cooper calls somebody to write in what the diak is. I don't know what his diak was. He said that we had a diak over here. Here it is. It's in the top of the Mishnah Berurah. Kol shekain bebetzalim tzarich lizar. Ein anu bekiyim what's called soft. Kol shekain lefi ma shenoyigin litain. No, I don't know what his diak is. Yeah. Litain abetzalim b'toch hatav shel shu davar gush Levadesh is Zardesh Poiskim that the davar gush is a kli rishon. Vafilu im yamtin achie amorek. I'm not sure if it's such a diak. You want it to be medayik that when you have the liquid, so I have to take a look properly. All right, I have to see what the dig is. There might be a dig in Tivka and Memhe. Akopanim, we said it from the Ksav Sofer. Yeah, I'm not misspelled from the dig. The way I'm seeing it right now, it could be there's no dig, and that's why I mentioned it was in a previous Gilgal. It was in a previous Gilgal. Akopanim, Halach L'Maisa, we saw anyways that you certainly are able to be Mako because the Ksav Sofer is the whole davar gush is a chumrah. So we said you can be Mako on the davar gush, a comment that it gets affected by the liquid and it gets affected by the walls. That's the chayra. Now, very interesting, Rabbi say. This Shabbos, it's a funny thing. You could give the whole shiur and you could learn the whole entire thing. And, and then it comes tachlis time to make the coffee. So this Shabbos, I told my kids, the covered rafalk, don't make the what's it called, coffee. Don't make the what was that stuff called, the intense coffee. Just make it like me. I told them, look, I have a new mahalach now that I pour milk in it. And the covered rafalk. So they told me, what kulas did you give? Because they saw the way I was saying it. So I told them, I have a kula, but why should you be saying on rafalk is adam gadol? And he said not to be saying. But what's the kula? So I told them that you could make it, that the water's not boiling hot, and you could do it in a kli shlishi, and that's how you could do it. That's how you could do it. So they asked me like this. They asked me. I said, look at the first line in the Mishnah Berurah. Pirish ein noisen lechem b'morok shalat sholent b'kaira she klisheni. Don't take. He was bringing a diak, not like the Ksav Sofer. Very good. It's a good diak. The previous Gilgal, that must have not been so bad. Yeah. It's a diak. The diak is like this, Rabbi Isaac. The diak is that when I have, not to the shaila of the Ksav Sofer, it says over here that when I take lechem and I put it into the morok of the cholent, which is a klisheni, the morok of the cholent, which is a klisheni. So we said the other day that if you have cholent and you put it on the breadcrumbs, so that I said you could be makelon. Why? Because what's Sachakol the cholent going to do to the breadcrumbs? It's just going to bake the breadcrumbs more. Saying afiach arfia. So he wants to say, what's the whole issue that the Mishnah Berurah says? The entire issue is pirish ain't nice in lechem in the morok of the cholent. It's mashma, very interesting diak. That could I take the breadcrumbs, the bread? Could I take bread and put them on the pieces of meat? This would be even a bigger kula than what we were saying. Now, as we were saying, if you have a cholent that's not liquidy, so you can take the whole entire cholent and put it on the breadcrumbs because the bread is already baked, and all you're doing is baking it more. He's saying more so. Look what you see in the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah, when he warns about the whole Indian of taking bread and not allowed to put bread into a klisheni, so it says, what shouldn't you do? You shouldn't put the bread in the liquid part of the cholent. Why shouldn't you put the bread in the liquid part of the cholent? Because the liquid part of the cholent is a klisheni. No, but mashma in the Mishnah Berurah, I could take the bread and put it in the solid part of the cholent. Why? The solid part is probably a kirishin, possibly even, right? The Tarot says, in order to feed this, you can take the bread and put it on the potatoes in the cholent. Why? Because the potato on the cholent isn't a liquid, it's a solid. So what's it going to do? It's going to bake the bread. That's a chiddush, though, because you could have heard that the cholent liquid is the liquid in the cholent is affecting the potato, and therefore the potato has the ability to cook something else. The Mishnah Berurah is going one step further than what we said. We said that when you have cholent that's dry, that doesn't have the ability to bake more the breadcrumbs because the breadcrumbs are already baked. The diak in the Mishnah Berurah is even stronger than that. The diak in the Mishnah Berurah is, what's the only issue? The only issue is that the bread, when it goes into a klisheni liquid, that's where the problem is. But the bits, the zachin, the potatoes, the meat that's inside the liquid, that you could put the bread on. It's only an issue. Why does he just say, don't put the bread in the cholent? That the only problem is you put the bread in the liquid. You guys like the dick? Wait, it's not a bad dick. No, it's not a bad dick. No, what do you say? I said that diak before I turned 40. So I'm not, before I had Arbayim anything, right? That was before I could learn Zayar. But I don't know. It's not such a bad. It's not such a bad diak. No, what do you say? Rabbi Levin, what do you say? It's such a bad diak. Right? Remember, if you say something I don't like, I know how to turn you guys off. I figured it out over here. But Shmuley, it's not a bad diak. No, it's an interesting diak. It's an interesting diak. You have to think about it. Now, by side. So there I am. I told my children the kula. They said, "What? We shouldn't do it." I said, "That's the covered Rafak." I said, "Rafak was such a great man, and he's such a big tzaddik, and he had such an avid for Shabbos." So the kvaydai, what? So brentzach, you have to have your coffee. So I told them they could do it with my special kula. When the water's not piping hot. So I said, you know what? Once you have to do that, it's already too much. So you know what? Could we use taster's choice? I said, look, taster's choice. It doesn't say anywhere anything about putting it into, ich weiß nicht, that it has previously baked parts that aren't cooked. I said, yeah, taster's choice. You could put inside a kli sheni. They said, really? You could put it in a kli sheni? I said, yeah. Why shouldn't you be able to put it inside a kli sheni? Why not? You take the water, and you could take the coffee and pour it right into the kli sheni. I said, yeah. I said, as a matter of fact, I prefer that, which we're going to learn about the Mitzvah Shem after Shavuos. I said, yeah, I prefer that than to pour the boiling hot water on the actual granules, because when you pour water on the granules, you're getting involved in moilid, that you're taking something which was a solid and turning it into a liquid. So you know what I prefer? That you take the coffee, put it into the kli sheni, and mix it all around. And that's not called moilid because it happens on its own. That's what I said. About svia. What about svia? Okay, so the Mishnah Berurah says, ain't svia ba'oichlin, and there's a makam b'mekel. And I said, yeah, so we could do it in the kli sheni. I said, you know what? Let me look it up. I'm the guy who's giving the shir. You think I would know and I shouldn't have to look it up, right? So I said, look it up. I don't know why I thought to look it up. And I said to myself, so where am I going to look it up? What? All these svarim that I tell you, I'm not sure if I agree with this, and I'm not sure if I agree with this. So what am I going to do? So I didn't know what to do. So I decided to look in Rav Moshe Feinstein. He's the one sefer that no matter what, we know for sure we agree with, right? So I decided to look it up. I remember Moshe talks about coffee, talks about all different coffees over here. It's a Peladik Maisa. You could learn all the time. Mamish, you can give a shir on coffee and coffee and coffee, right? And Pashit, you're all probably wondering, what? Rav Moshe was the big snake on the whole thing on this thing, right? Rav Moshe, like, why am I even wasting the time? But you know what? I said to my children, I said, why shouldn't I look it up? The svarim, there are rebbeim, and the shach says in your day, you're not supposed to paskin. If your Rebbe's in the town, you're not supposed to pass it. So here I have an Igros Moshe over here, and we sang the other day, Moshe Emes V'say Rasay Emes. So why shouldn't I look it up? So I looked it up. It's unbelievable. Look what Moshe says. Moshe has two tshuvas about coffee over here. One is about the uncooked coffee, and these two tshuvas enlightened me and opened up my mind. We read these tshuvas, Rabbi. It's not the first time, but they just opened up my mind. Unbelievable. Moshe, he talks in Sif Tev Zayin over here. That's Oyster Zayin. This is the same tshuvas that we keep on talking about, that we have to have tremendous hakaras hatoiv to Rav Shimon Eider, that he mamish asked all these questions to Rav Moshe. I got to look it up in the Shimon Eider Sefer. Over there, he brings down the questions more lengthy and the answers more lengthy. But I'll read it to you from over here. He talks, this is in the 16th tshuva. He says, Asiyas coffee names, instant coffee. That means instant coffee. Mevachlin as a coffee. He says, what do? This is probably how they make taster's choice. They mevachel the coffee, then they dry it out. And they basically blow dry it out, and they dry it out. So they cooked it, and then they baked it. And Kipshuta, it's just a regular shaila of ein bishul achar. Maybe yesh bishul achar fi achar bishul, which we saw there could be mekaymis to be makel, certainly in a makom be makel. Let's see. A shema, he says, what's the din? So he brings here, we spoke about this, the Aruch HaShulchan and whatnot. He says, pashit. Shema emes that the coffee is namis in the spatial and the mayim. Shekalu garina. It's pashit that if this was taka cooked, hudavrim avushal in bishul kotzorchai. And Mistaber, he says that Lamaisi, you see it gets dissolved legamre. So ha'emes midemoyach ha'kofi v'namis legamre. Legam ha'chim shel shmoyne meis shetav shel zenes yabish. They go and they bake it in 800 degrees afterward. So he says it's a vada and it's turned into a powder. He says that's also probably called bishul, because he wants to say that when we'll talk about this in Mitzvah Shem, but if you have something that was liquid, was bishuled, they first bishul the beans, and then they just keep on cooking and cooking and cooking, and it turns into these granules. Right? So he says that's also called bishul because it's a liquid until it gets to the granules. Umemela ein bishul achar bishul hu yavesh. He says you margish the tam acher in the coffee when you put it. He says it tastes different in cold water. So Ramesh goes on, and Mitzvah Shem will talk about this. This has to do with salt and whatever. He says, and the Aruch HaShulchan legabe tea. This is the famous one where he says the Aruch HaShulchan's a pella. He says he's a pella. He goes on. He says these words. Listen to the words. He says, "Coffee na meis yadua leinchi shu mevushal v'gam kimdumani shenoigim people to put in sugar." We're going to talk about this when we get to salt tomorrow. That part of the truth I'll talk about. Ibra. Listen to Ramesha. Ibra is one of those words that you write. Ibra ani machmir la'atzmi. You should know I myself am machmir. A whole tshuva where he says that it's mutter gomer to make it in a klisheni. Me am machmir, and I make it bain the sugar, bain the coffee. I always do it in a klishlishi. Aval ladina ein lahachmir. The halachos is ein lahachmir. I told my children, I said, Ramesha had the biggest coolest in the world, and Ramesha, and he was the one that told us even uncooked coffee you could probably put in a klisheni. But when it came down the Maisa, Ramesh said on coffee, on taste, he wouldn't do it unless it was a klishlishi. I was intrigued. So right away, now you see why it's kedai always to look up shilas, right? Stam, it's always kedai to look up shilas. No, mamish. I was going to make it in a klisheni and think it's like mamish, no problem to make it in a klisheni. And then you look Ramesh himself. He says, no. I myself personally always doing a klisheni. Halacha l'maisa, it's mutter in klisheni. Why was Ramesh machmer himself? That's what intrigued me. I'll tell you what I think. I think because Ramesha knows that things could change. And like you see today, Taka, you see that Taka, this new coffee has parts that are uncooked, which that for sure is of Shaila, and that for sure you shouldn't make it in anything less than a klishlishi. And Ramesha knows if you always make things in a klishlishi, you're always going to be covered. You see the foresight of a gadol batayra. In other words, even my kulas the other day, but it wasn't less than a klishlishi. And we said that you should make sure the water's not even so hot, okay? But you see the foresight. Ramesha just said, that's what I thought the pshat was. I saw in the Sefer Shlos Yitzchak in the 295th page. I started looking around to see Taka, maybe what Rav Yashiv says. He got to brings this Ramesha. And he says, Ramesha was machmer a klishlishi, even though you clearly see Ramesha would have been make on a klisheni. He says, because Ramesha, he knew that the mitzias could change. And he gives an example. He doesn't give my example. You see, the Sefer was written like 10 years ago, and they didn't have back then, that they're going to put inside things that maybe are uncooked granules and whatnot. He says, the Maisa, you know what they do today? A lot of times they take the oil from the bean before it's cooked. I don't know how that's what he says. He says after they press the bean and they squish the bean and they get some big eichleis to sit on the bean, and then afterward the oil comes out of this bean and it's uncooked oil, and then they take that oil and then they put it back inside the coffee. Why? Because it gives it more of a smell. So he said there are parts of the coffee which aren't cooked. So Moshe knew that this could be, and this is why I just Taka hear this. It's always kedai just to put everything to potential pitfalls, to always avoid potential pitfalls and just always put it inside a klishlishi. Why do you need to have the agnes nefesh? Why do you want to take a chance about this? No, it's mamish. Grada, why can't you put it even in a klirishin? Let's say it was the actual ein bishul achar bishul one. Let's say it was Taka Ramesha. Why was Ramesha only allowing a klisheni? Why? So now we're going to talk about that there's a mishabru and sivkatin kof, where Mishabru, we mentioned this many times in Mitzvah Shem, we'll get to this after Shavuos, that if you have something that dissolves into, it was a solid and it turns into a liquid, there's a chumrah that we don't make such a thing in a klirishin, only in a klisheni. But now you're hearing that there's a chumrah, don't make it in a klisheni, make it in a klishlishi for a different reason. Who knows what other uncooked things are going to be. Rabbi say, afterward, I'm looking in the cabinet over there and I see saccharin. It's not called saccharin in Eretz Yisrael, it's called something else, like saccharin. But Lamaisa, does anybody here know if saccharin has things in it that aren't cooked? Does anybody know? I'm going to look into these things tonight, Nader, for tomorrow's share. But I was thinking, could you go and just put saccharin? And let's say I'll tell you tomorrow, there's saccharin it's all previously cooked. Ma yulad yoim, right? Rabbi Elbaz, you know what they're going to put in the lachmajin tomorrow? Who knows what they're going to be putting in there tomorrow? But Levin, do you know what they're going to put in the bultan over there tomorrow? Who knows what they're going to be putting over there? Who knows what they can do? I don't know. Right? Splendid, Rabbi Isai. Who knows what they can put there tomorrow? I'm not taking chances with this. So therefore, in general, we'll talk a local ma'isa, but in general, it's kedai to always make things into a klishlishi. That's a chayra. You could probably be makel that a klisheni pouring from a klisheni equals a klishlishi, like we mentioned many times. You don't have to wait till it gets into the klishlishi probably, but akapanim, certainly you should get into the habit of klishlishi. Now, another thing, the plot thickens. I decided to start looking into some of these things. Tomorrow we'll have more in Hashem, but I looked into honey because there was a baskol that told us that honey was like some whole different process about honey. So I decided to look a little bit into honey, and this is something that we definitely need to be mavara. What is going on with honey? Is honey cooked or not cooked? So I talked today to one of the mashkichim on the bedats, and he told me something very interesting. He told me that it seems to be that I was right, that I knew in the Metzias. No, excuse me, I was wrong in the Metzias. I was right in the reasoning. There's no need to cook honey mitzad, it's bacteria. That's true. But afa pikain, they actually do cook many times the honey. For zaitige reasons, they cook the honey. He gave me a few examples. He told me that the bedats, a lot of their honeys are cooked because he says it's easier to put inside of it certain preservatives. Why do you need preservatives? It preserves on its own? I don't know. Second of all, he said it's reasons that they put honey is because it gives it, when you cook it, it enables them to give it a different type of a color, right? Why would they want to give it a different type of a color or flavor? I don't know. He says also they cook it sometimes because it's easier to filter the honey when it's cooked. It's much more liquefied when it's cooked, and it's easier to get all the dead bees and dead moths out of it and whatever, and all the other little dragon loch and whatever. It's easy to get those things out of it. So, Bekitzer, they have zaitige side reasons why they cook the honey. If this is true, also he told me that they cook the honey in order that it's easier that it pours. You want your honey to pour. You don't want it to be all thick and congealy and whatever. So it remains as a process of being, liquefied. The cooking process. I know Rabbi Greenhouse, that you're not happy about this because of the fact that it's going to be not as healthy, and I'm not in charge. Okay, I'm not in charge. If you want, you can go to Kfar Chabad and you can get the healthy type. Okay, it seems to be they actually cook the honey, so this changes everything. It seems like the Baskol was right, and if there's a often that there are certain honeys, I'm still going to be nervous because processes could change, and I'm going to still be machmir to put my honey in a kli shlishi, right? Nishman froy. I mean the honey, right? I'm going to be machmir to put the honey into a kli shlishi because I'm nervous what's going to be tomorrow and what's going to be this and that. But if you know for sure your honey is cooked, l'chayra, you could put her in a kli sheni. L'chayra. Why can't you put her in a kli rishon? L'chayra, it's a ein bishul achar bishul. So Teretz says the fear of Moshe's definition of lach and yavesh. Rav Moshe's definition is lach means something that when you put it into a kli, it just, it spreads. It spreads. Any honey, derek klal, of those types of honey that you're going to put inside a kli is just going to spread. The derek klal, that's what he told me, this mashkiach. So then for sure, you have to at least give it a din of a liquid that was nispashal, and a liquid that was nispashal, we're not going to let you put in a kli rishon, and therefore you should always put your honey at least in a kli sheni. I myself am going to put into kli shlishi simply because I don't know what's going to be tomorrow, but it's true that there is honey which is cooked, and therefore Medina, it's mutter to put honey into a kli sheni. That's Medina. Not kli rishon, because of Rav Moshe's definition. The truth is, if you'd go with some other definition, it could be you could put honey even into a kli rishon. But upon him, it's not kedai, because Ivadi should go with Rav Moshe that any liquid that just pours and doesn't have its own form, certainly you have to be chayshish as a din in these halachas as being a salad. That's number 3. Number 4, we spoke about Yad Nichves. Now I'm going to tell you a davar nifla. You're all about to have a most wonderful Rosh Chodesh treat. Do you remember Rosh Chodesh treats when we were growing up? Used to have like in certain yeshivas, they give you like the leban that you don't die from. You know, I'm talking about the one that has it has a zayda that was chocolate, right? Or certain yeshivas, mamish, like the wealthy yeshivas, you get like a little shoko bag and right? By us, we have pizza day, and Rosh Chodesh is pizza. That's was the minhag of saying from the Haim. But everybody teach on. So what can I do? In the Kailam, there's no Safek Nusi. We would be having today's Grados value of Yartzeit. So we would be having mamish, not just potato kugel, with Yushami kugel and V'ulai Psha. But we're not together. So Torah, in Shira Shirim, it says is Chiku Mamtokim Kuloi Machmodim. Torah Kedosha is yummy and delicious. Chiku Mamtokim. It tastes like a sweet. It's yummy and delicious. If you don't like the taste of Torah, there's something wrong with your taste buds, and deal with yourself. But the Torah is super delicious. So on Rosh Chodesh, I can't give you pizza, and I can't give you, potato kugel and whatever. But akapanim, I could give you chiku mamtokim v'kulay machmadim, like it says in Shir Shirim in the 6th parak Ayin Sham and in the Medrash. Akapanim. So listen to this. Rabbi say, we spoke the other day about Yad Nichvis Bay. So I saw a certain sefer is ma'orer our kasha on Rav Moshe. He writes on Rav Moshe that how could Rav Moshe say that there's no nafkamina of Yad Nichvis and Yad Shei of Klisheni? There's no nafkamina. Are we machmir on the Chai Adam's Chumra of Yad Nichvis? Because says Rav Moshe, we're anyways machmir always on Klisheni. So says Rav Moshe, since we're anyways always machmir on Klisheni, it's hard to know if we're machmir on the Chumra of Yad Nichvis. What does it mean? It's like a mouth. There's no mitzias of being machmir on Yad Nichvis. Why not? Why not? He says because in the end of the day, says Rabbi Moshe, we're always machmer and klisheni. We assume everything is kalei bishul. So since we assume everything is kalei bishul, so what do you want to know? Are we machmer and yad nichves? There's no such mitzias. I klishlishi. By the time it gets to klishlishi, there's no yad nichves. That was the kasha we asked on Rav Moshe. So we went on to say a mahalach, which I'll just reiterate in a moment. This sefer, he has a gevaldik teretz, which the truth is, it could be an emes teretz, at least klape one part. He brings an az nidbru, which Takad Az Nidbru says this. In the 58th tshuva of the Az Nidbru, he says something very nice. He says, Yad Nichves, you're not going to have to worry. We asked, I'm sorry, I didn't explain the kasha. The kasha is, what do you mean? Of course you have to worry about Yad Nichves. What about water? What about oil? What about tavlinim? What about the things that we know, yes, we don't cook in a klisheni, but are we machmir on Yad Nichves that we're going to be machmir even on water? Are we going to be machmir even on oil? Even though it certainly doesn't have the chumrah of Kali Bishul, because that's first in the Gemara. But what about Yad Nichves? That was the question. So what's Rav Moshe saying? We can't know the answer. That's the question. Are we machmir on Yad Nichves when it comes to water? Because water doesn't have the chumrah of Kali Bishul. So we answered whatever we answered. This sefer is very nice teretz. He brings out Nidbru and Aleph Nun Ches, and as Nidbru says, he doesn't go on Rav Moshe obviously, but he says Lemaisa, water you don't have to be machmir on a Yad Nichves by anyways. He says, why not? He says, because the second you put water into a kli, let's say the kli sheni has 190 degrees. So what do you want to know? Is the Chai Adam going to be machmir on water? That for sure you don't have to be machmir. Why? Because once you put water in, it cools down the hot water. So the only chumrah of Yad Nichves is not klape something like water. We don't have to worry about water because water inevitably cools down the actual klisheni, so we don't have to worry about it. So he says, "Gevaldik teretz." The fever of Moshe Feinstein, right? And if Preshberger were here, I'd be asking him to get me the Rav Moshe right now. What can you do? He hasn't joined us in 200 days. Upon him, if you take water and pour it inside a klisheni, that is Yad Nichves by. It doesn't cook. It won't have the chumrah of Yad Nichves. Now I was nervous. Why? The first second it should cook. Typically, the first drop that comes in should cook. Why don't we worry that the first drop that comes into the klisheni should already cook? So that is not such a kasha. The answer is that since it takes time for something to cook, it doesn't happen immediately. And by the time, let's say you're putting a little bit of water inside, so by the time the little bit of water would have gotten cooked, it cooled down the actual klisheni and didn't allow the klisheni's Yad Nichves to cook the water. That's what the Az Nidbru says. As Mela, this sefer says, so Rav Moshe is gevaldik. He says, why? Listen to what he writes. He says, because Rav Moshe Feinstein is going to learn, number one, there can never be a case where we'll know if we're machmer on Yad Nichves. Why? Because we're always machmer on everything assuming it's a Kallus Bishul, and we're never going to put anything in a klisheni. Water, we're anyways going to be allowed to put inside a klisheni, water and oil, because the second you put the water in the klisheni, it's anyways going to cool down the water, so we don't have to be machmir about water and oil that in the chumrah of Yad Nichvas anyways. Elamai, what's left? Tavlinim. So he said, so from here you see Rav Moshe is going to be machmir, like the Shaila of Reb Shlomo Zalman, and she's going to tell us that when it comes to Tavlinim, our Tavlinim are not like the Tavlinim of Chazal. And the Tavlinim of Chazal were not ground as finely as ours. So therefore, ours that are ground so finely, you're not going to be allowed to put the Tavlinim inside a klisheni anyways. So the Mela, forget that it's Yad Nichvas, but you're not going to be allowed to put our Tavlinim inside a klisheni because they're ground so finely. So therefore, there's never enough Gemina if we are machmer and Yad Nichvas. So therefore, it's impossible to know if we're machmer like the Chumrah of Yad Nichvas, because everything we're going to be machmer on, mitzad safei, Kallus Bishul, we don't put anything into a klisheni. Elamai, water you can put in even if it's Yad Nichvas. Oil, you can put even if it's Yad Nichvas. Tavlinim, you can't put even into a regular klisheni. Why can't you put regular into a regular klisheni? Because you always have to worry about going B'Shleim Zalman. I'd kind this wonderful sefer and how he answers Rav Moshe. It's mamish nice, no? It's mamish nice. Oil also, Rabbi Lieberman is asking me oil. Say oil too. Oil is something, it's a liquid and goes into the water and it's going to cool down the water. So I beside even oil. Mamish nifla dikataretz, right? So you're all wondering, you guys know the style a little bit already, right? There's the 500th shir. If you don't know by now the style, so then, it's the 500th shir in Hilchos Shabbos, right? But it's the 5,000th shir that you guys have probably heard from me. If I like the teretz so much, I'd say the name of the sefer, no? Right? And if it was so wrong, I would tell you the name of the sefer anyways, so you should stay away from the sefer. But in this case, pshat is tzaka is a very good sefer. But on the other hand, if I'm not saying the name, so then it means it's a little bit of a mistake. Why is it a mistake? Who knows why it's a mistake? It's 100% a toyas. It's 100% toyas. Toyas gemura. But it's a good chap, but it's a toyas gemura. No, who knows why? All of a sudden, everyone's quiet. Right? Oh, no. Rabbi Sivan says that maybe because that's not true. If you take I don't know, you take something and put it inside a klisheni, why should it cool it down? Why should it cool down? No, Davi Spira, tell me a teretz. That's just called trash talking. Come on, let me hear a good teretz. Come on. Somebody just said a teretz, but I lost him. 1 minute. Who was that? Was that Fishy? Who just sent that? Somebody just sent the teretz, and now I lost it. How do you get the teretz? 1 second. The last time I pressed buttons, I wound up losing you guys. So I'm not pressing the button. Donnie Sitko. Bam. Where is he? Is he here? I don't see him. Where is he? Bam. You got it. You got the old yarmulke that I used to paint ones with. You got it. Bam. But bring a raya. Don't just talk. Bring a raya, Sitko. There's no games. Bam. You'll be married within the year. Bam. You got it. All right. That's it. You know what the answer is? Rabbi say, Goyin Rav Moshe Feinstein does not hold of this. How do I know Goyin Rav Moshe Feinstein doesn't hold this? And Shimunah Rabbi say, because it's a davar nifla. Now you're going to see the shita of Goyin Rav Moshe. It's a simcha gedola. The Goyin Rav Moshe Rabbi say spoke about coffee. Rav Moshe spoke about coffee, and I realized that I made a mistake in something I said the other day. That's why I'm so excited. Rav Moshe over here spoke about coffee in the next Rav Moshe Tshuva in Yud Ches. We spoke about Tes Zayin, where it was a coffee that was cooked. Now this is in Yud Ches, which is coffee which was uncooked. A coffee which is uncooked. I hope you're listening. Rabbi Preshberger came back all the way to hear this shtickle Torah. Al coffee einoi mevushal. Listen to this Rav Moshe. They came cocoa. What's cocoa? Cocoa. Coffee that's not cooked and uncooked cocoa. He says, l'chayra they are tavlinim. They're stam tavlinim. Im came mefurish in the Mishnah that you could put them in a klisheni. So he says, l'chayra uncooked coffee, uncooked cocoa and uncooked coffee, you could put in a klisheni. Have a cocoa and coffee hang tavlin bivadai. Harei bichlav tavlin sheb Mishnah v'leikat safek. And then he says, ulamaisa. Atzarcha kopanim machmir b'kli sheni umutter b'kli shlishi. Okay, Ramosha goes on to say a chumrah because over here he's discussing tea in general, right? But listen to this, Rabbi Sai. Rav Moshe Feinstein Zeichet Tzadik Levracha told us that you should know mitzidi. I would have been makel on coffee and I would have been makel on cocoa when it's not cooked, even in a klisheni. Okay, Rabbi Sai, cocoa, Rabbi Sai, cocoa. How small did they make cocoa? Cocoa is very small. Oh, cocoa is very fine. Oh, right? Cocoa is very, very small and very ground up. Oh, Abaisai, Ramosha just said that even something which is ground up as fine as cocoa. Abaisai, you know when you're taking the cocoa and you're pouring it into the milk, and it's like not, you know what I'm talking about. It's like the worst thing you gewaltig a brain surgeon. Why couldn't you just put inside a spoon? Okay, but you're sitting there going like this, and then all of a sudden it flops out with the cloud and dust, with the ganze everywhere, right? Oh, that's because it's more fine than baby powder. Oh, as I bizarre, they grind up cocoa to the finest at all. And Rav Moshe says it's vadai tavlin, says the guy Rav Moshe, even though it was ground up to the finest bit. That means we have a mefursha tshuva from Rav Moshe that he does not hold of going Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and that he holds that when something is ground up finally, it still has the din of a tavlin. Going Rav Moshe, number one. Number two, I see derech agav, just important to know. I see from this Rav Moshe a davar nifla. Rabbi Sai, I mentioned the other day, I said Rav Moshe, when it came to a lemon, I said Rav Moshe said you shouldn't put it in a klisheni, you should put it in a klishlishi. Remember we said this? We put it in Rav Moshe said. Where's this Rav Moshe? It's in this same tshuva, in the paragraph before. I mistakenly said, what was the reason why Rav Moshe said to put a lemon in a kli shlishi, not a kli sheni? I mistakenly said the reason of the Ksais HaShulchan. The Ksais HaShulchan says a reason. I'm saying that the Ksais HaShulchan is mistaken. I'm saying that the Rav Moshe doesn't go with that. The Ksais HaShulchan says a reason in Kuf Chav Dalid, in Siv Dalid, because he says any tavlin that they didn't have in the time of Chazal can't be included in the list of a tavlin, which is a very mistaberdik svara. If they didn't have it, how could you say it's included in the kula of tavlin? It's a very mistaberdik thing. So the Ksais HaShulchan says, therefore, lemons they didn't have. So who knows if you're allowed to put a lemon in a kli sheni? So only put it in a kli shlishi. So I said Rav Moshe holds like that also. Rabbi Sai, Rav Moshe can't hold like that. Rav Moshe can't hold like that. Rav Moshe is talking about cocoa, and Rav Moshe is talking about coffee, and Rav Moshe says cocoa and coffee you could put in a klisheni, theoretically, because it has a din of a tavlin. Rabbi Sai, Abaye nishkahat kein coffee. Rava didn't have cocoa. Rava didn't have cocoa. Ravina didn't have coffee. So you see, Rav Moshe doesn't hold to that svara. Rav Moshe holds, I see this as an unbelievable Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe holds, first of all, tavlinim. I don't care if Chazal had it. Unbelievable. Number one. Number two is Rav Moshe says, coffee and cocoa, I don't care how grindly they finally grind it up. I don't care. It'll also have the heter of klisheni. So I look back. So what's the pshat in Rav Moshe? Why does Rav Moshe tell us that a lemon you shouldn't put in a klisheni? So Rabbi said it's in the same exact tshuva, and I realized I made a mistake in the paragraph before. That was the tshuva of Rav Moshe that we spoke about. That Rav Moshe said that when I saw so many Rav Moshes, I got mixed up. Rav Moshe said that when you have a tavlin, that the derech of that tavlin is also to eat. So Rav Moshe says that type of tavlin doesn't have the heter of tavlinin. Rav Moshe's example of that is a lemon, which is a chiddush because not so many people eat lemons. But that's how Rav Moshe explains. He says a lemon is not a tavlin. Why? Not because they didn't have it in Chazal. That doesn't bother Rav Moshe. Not because they grind it up finally. I mean, they don't. Says Rav Moshe, you know why a lemon is not a tavlin? Because it's a type of a tavlin that you actually eat. So therefore, only put it in a kli shlishi. As I bizarre, when we go back now, so now we go back to the kasha. So what are you going to do with Rav Moshe? Why did Rav Moshe tell us that there's no difference between knowing if we're machmer on the yad nichvis of the chayadam? Hooray, we're anyways machmer, says Rav Moshe, on everything we don't put into a klisheni. And he was able to explain water and able to explain oil, but you're not going to be able to explain tavlin. Because now tavlin, moiradik, even Rav Moshe should have an nafkamina, and he should tell you a tavlin is vaday not Kallus Bishul, and I don't care how finely they grind it up. So why doesn't Rav Moshe say that when it comes to a tavlin, it's important for me to know if we are machmir on the chumrah of Yad Nichves, because if we're machmir on the chumrah of Yad Nichves, I'm not going to let you put a tavlin inside a klisheni. So why does Rabbi Moshe say there's no nafkamina to know? The answer is what we said the other day. You see from over here, like the Chayodam, like the Mishnah Berurah, like the Pashit Halacha, that when they were only machmir and Yad Nichves on things that they were being machmir in the first place, Klape Kallus Bishul, so they said, we're machmir and Kallus Bishul in general, but when it's a Yad Nichves and Kallus Bishul, you better be machmir. Of them Zot Rav Moshe, so it's not shaykh to know how serious we take Yad Nichves, because we're anyways machmir. So what's the nafkamina? Nifla ad l'me'oid. Baruch Hashem, Shezalchi knows us. Did anybody here not feel a gashmiistic hana right now? Because if not, then you must go immediately to a doctor. Immediately, Rabbi said, because then there's something very, very wrong with you, right? And you might be dangerous, and even a mikveh won't help, right? So therefore, it's a gewaltige simcha. You see how wrong we were in Rav Moshe. I thought the pshat in Rav Moshe, I told you the other day, and the pshat is lemon. The lemon is the pshat because they didn't have lemons in the time of Chazal. Rav Moshe in the same exact tshuva talking about coffee and cocoa, and he didn't care. It's a gewaltige chiddush in Rav Moshe, Rabbi said. No, Rav Moshe is a gewaltige chiddush. Why is it that, how could Rav Moshe say it? That you need to be Rav Moshe to say it. I mean, they didn't have lemons. Why in the world would I have? I mean, they didn't have coffee. Why would I think that it's taka considered a tafel? I don't know. But Kapanim, that's what it says in Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe says that it doesn't matter if they had it or they didn't have it. It's included in tavlina. So therefore, Rav Moshe taka, and Rav Moshe also, you see, did not care how finely things are ground up. Afal pikain, you're going to be able to put it inside a klisheni. I would sing again Moshe Emes V'Yisei Rasei Emes, but you might think I'm being sensational, right? But I don't care. Moshe Emes V'Yisei Rasei Emes, Moshe Emes V'Yisei Rasei Emes, Moshe Emes V'Yisei Rasei Emes. Okay, but we can't go much further because we have to finish. But Baruch Elokeinu, Baruch Elokeinu she'baran l'chvaydai, and Nasan Lanu Toiras Moshe, Moiridik of the Welt, that we were Zeiche to Moshe Feinstein in the Welt. Is Rabbi say, let's just finish up over here, because tomorrow we really got to get to sugar and salt, and that's really the last sugar, and then in Mitzvah Hashem we can go into Shavuos to Gezachen. Just Lamaisa, I guess, just to I have 9 minutes. Okay, so we'll do it like this. Tomorrow will be Miyached for Sif Tes. All the Klirishin stuff, we spoke a lot about it, right? And then we'll go into salt. I just want to mention right now, just another Indian. I have 2 minutes. We have 6 minutes, right? But I just want to mention like this. In Sif Vav, we finished Sif Hey now. In Sif Vav, tomorrow, again, whoever's holding by preparation, learn Sif Tes properly. Learn about the klirishin, learn about the salt, learn about the sugar. That's going to be a Mitzvah Shem tomorrow's shiur, all about salt, the salt in Eretz Yisrael. Is it different? Is it not different? And if you're thinking, oh, but we don't have salt in Eretz Yisrael. Yes, you do. They sell it in the makolet, right? Every Haimish community has a makolet. It's always called moishis for some reason. But Akapanim, every moishis in every country in the world. So they have the salt, and we have to talk about it. Akapanim, Sivav Zayin and Ches is Mamish Reish and Gimel about Chazara. So for all intents and purposes, I'm skipping it. Sivav is, again, it's not Be'etzim so Negeya, because it's Negeya Hatmana. I'm saying it's not Negeya this part of Bishul right now, and the Olam will not appreciate the Svaras until we're in Hatmana. But there is one Nikud I want to mention, which I doubt that Rabbi Yitzchak is even going to put in the Marmakaimis, because we spoke amongst us that we're just going to go to see Hey and Tess. But there is something here, which is something very interesting. Two Dvarim, two Zaitik in the Gedarim and Dvarim that are taka interesting to know. It says in Sivav that if you have a Kli that's hot, it's Yatzaladispai, so then it's mutter lanicha b'Shabbos al ketera. This is talking, like I mentioned, about taking a schnitzel and putting it on top of a chalent. And Mitzvah Hashem, that's chazara. But then he says these words, a very interesting Shulchan Aruch. It says v'yachal latuach piv. You're allowed to put on a pot a piece of dough, right? If you have a dough that was already kneaded on Erev Shabbos, it's Rabbi side has to do with a sugya vatmana and whatever. And Mitzvah Shem, when we learn the sugya vatmana, you'll appreciate whether you are allowed to do these things, why you're allowed to do these things in Mitzvah Shem. But Derech Agav, We all have a kasha when we look at the Shulchan Aruch, which is Negea Bishul. That's why I want it to be Negea now. And it's also Negea Mamreach, which is also all this raid with these alka-gels. Rabbi Preshberger, bring me some alka-gel a second. Bring some alka-gel a second. So what's it say over here? It says that if you have this dough, so you're allowed to take it and put it on a boiling hot pot. The Shulchan Aruch is talking klapi hatmana, and you don't have to consider that to be hatmana, whatever the reason is. Hatmana is a sugi. If you do know, you do know. If you don't, it's even better. Akapanim, why am I allowed to take a piece of dough and put it on a pot, which is yatzaledes? Rabbi say, go and take a piece of dough, put it on a pot, which is yatzaledes, and you're going to see that it's going to certainly heat up the actual, at least the outside layer of this dough. So l'chayra, you're cooking the outermost layer of this dough. If I take something with a heat and put it on with tremendous heat from yatzal, we're talking about a pot which is cooking on the fire, and you're taking dough and putting it on a pot which cooks on the fire. So I imagine it's not going to bake the whole bread, but it's going to do something. And I imagine it's not a deraisa, because I imagine it's not going to do, we know that the Gemara Menachos on Daf Nun Zayin says that in order to be over on Bishul, you have to cook on this side and you have to cook on that side. Okay, so I'm asking that you're probably not over in a deraisa, but upon him, there should at least be a drabanan over here. You're starting a cooking process. So what do you see? What do you see? So says the Bir Halacha has this kasha. Mashma mizeh de potzig mutar laniach al gabe kli cham. You're allowed to take it into Veloy Chashina, that it's going to come the day ksas afia. You don't have to worry it's going to be ksas gebakt into the extent of a kedei krimas panim. It's not going to go, and krimas panim means it's going to have a certain hardening of the outside layer, and you don't have to worry about it. The zashir legabe pas. Now, by say the Bir Halacha just really like he admits there's something here, and he just increases our interest. What did the Bir Halacha just tell us? The Bir Halacha just told us that if you have dough and it's getting heated up by the pot, even though the outside layer is going to be boiling in a yatzaledes by dika matziv, but it's not going to get to the level that you have to worry about. So first of all, I see in this Bir Halacha gevaldik chiddush. I see in this Bir Halacha, if I cook something to under a third, we'll call it under a third of cooking. We know that there's a third is Michael Ben Drusai. If I cook something a quarter, then there's no isser. I don't mean if you put it in a place of where it could theoretically get to a third, because then there'll be exeris hefsher that you might come to leave it there. I mean, if I put something in a position of where it can only get to a quarter of it's being cooked, I don't care at all. It's not chatzi shir. Let's go out the chiddush, Rabbi say. Where's this negaya? It's negaya we always spoke about. We always spoke about if you're allowed to take a blech. It sounds like there's no even Issa Drabanan. Rabbi Bolton he's got all these exclamation points. Even Drabanan, yeah, even Drabanan. It sounds like it's even Drabanan, right? It's an unbelievable thing. This is what it seems to say over here, because it can't get to a third. If it can't even get to a third, it doesn't bother us that it got to a quarter. It's unbelievable chiddush, this Rabbi say, right? Now, I must tell you, the shaila is, where do you go from here? Where do you go from here? In other words, we once spoke about putting a blech on a fire, and we said that the fear of Moshe it's mutter, and we said the Chazon Ish says it's aser, and we said that the reason why Moshe says it's mutter is because that's not even a chati shir. Chati shir, you're not in the ballpark, bichlal. Until it gets red hot, until you take a piece of metal and make it red, it's not in the ballpark, bichlal. You didn't start anything over here. And Mashen Kain, the Chazon Ish, for whatever reason, said no. Once you start the process. So then that's already considered yes and ifser, even though it can never get there. The Chazon Ish admits that it's never going to get there. Obviously, we're not talking about that it's going to get to red hot, because if it get to red hot, then everybody's going to agree that you can't take a piece of metal and put it where it can get to red hot. So we're talking about a piece of metal that can never get to red hot. And Afa Pikein, the Ramosha says it's mutter. Why? Push it, because it's not a chati shir, it's a chati malacha. Anytime you don't do anything to off ketim b'chlal inside the blech, it does gonish ketim. You didn't do anything. So where's the gvaldik arayat? This Mishnah Brura. It seems to be over here that you're doing something that doesn't affect it at all. Doesn't affect it at all. And therefore, it seems to be that it's going to be mutter. It seems to be that it's going to be mutter. Lemaisa, how's the Chazon Ish going to answer this, Rabbi say? How's the Chazon Ish going to answer this? How's the Chazon Ish going to answer this? Right? So Lemaisa, it comes out like this. It comes out, I'm very married to Lemaisa. I knew this question, Rabbi say, when we started Bishul 4 weeks ago. And 4 weeks ago, I sent the question verbally to Reb Chaim Kanievsky. I've been waiting 4 weeks for this. It's for Chodesh, right? I asked this question to Reb Chaim Kanievsky. We spoke about this like on the second or third day. I sent the Shaila with Rav Druk to Reb Chaim Kanievsky to ask for me. I totally forgot about the question. I totally forgot about it because I sent it so long ago and I was going to ask the question on the day and I totally forgot. It didn't come back, right? This morning, with unbelievable Siyat Ishmael, Rav Druk told me he went into Reb Chaim. Maybe it was the first time, I don't know, because of Corona. I don't know. He went into Reb Chaim and he asked this question to Reb Chaim. He asked, how's Reb Chaim Kanievsky, how's the Chazon Ish going to answer that when you take a blech and you put it on a fire, the Chazon Ish says that that's mamish considered a chatzi shir, and even though it's not going to get to red hot, but you can't do it because it's something that theoretically is the start of a cooking process. Like it's never going to get there. You have a mamish araya mefureshes from a shulchan aruch, not like that. First in the bialacha, when you have a batseik, when you have a piece of dough, so the dough is something that gets also a start of a cooking process, and it's never going to get there. And you see me first, that's mutter. So he told me, Rav Chaim Kanievsky said 2 terutzim. One teretz is, which it seems to be Rav Chaim liked more. Rav Chaim said, it's not a kasha b'chlal, because over here, when you do that to the dough, it's a kilkel. This is how I understood what he meant. It's a kilkel. When you take the dough and you cook it to yad saledis by, the outside layer is a kilkel. That for sure has no shem bishul. Something that's a kilkel and will never get there, that's just a kilkel. All you did was you basically ruined the outside layer. Mashenke, by metal, that you heat up metal, you're not ruining anything. You just didn't finish. All you did is copy a bishul process you're not doing. You're just taking metal, making it hot, and it didn't get to the point of red hot. That was one possible teretz. A different teretz Reb Chaim said is that Chazon Ish himself writes that if you have food inside the pot, so then you are, yes, allowed to put a pot on the fire without the problems of chazara. Says why? Because the food absorbs the heat, and then it doesn't make the metal be in the parsha bichlal of a metal that's becoming red hot. So he said, no, a piece of dough, the whole dough is absorbing the heat, and therefore it's considered that kivyachol not to be a start at all of a bishul process. I didn't fully understand the second teretz, but it's interesting. Tomorrow, at the beginning of the shir, I'm going to discuss the one more shaila over here about the mamreach issue over here, that you're taking dough and you're smearing it. I'm just going to discuss it with the alka gel, Bez Hashem, and then we're going into Siv Tes, Bez Hashem. I just want to mention that it seems to be that B'siyata D'Shmaya, we're trying to get back together in Eretz Yisrael. Now, 2 things. One is that we are working tirelessly in the Kallus, without tired. We're working in the Kallus to try and arrange potential letters and whatnot. And it's complicated. The rules are changing every time you talk to a different person that works in the Misrad the Misrad HaPnim, and it's very complicated. So that's why I haven't yet given firm messages of what is with but we are on top of it, and we are trying to get the required letters to be able to help you. Obviously, we're trying to avoid a situation where we're going to get a letter and you're going to find out that letter, when you get to the airport, in Guatemala, that you get sent home. So therefore, we're trying to arrange this. I think that Levi would be happy to wind up in Guatemala, but the rest of us would not. And therefore, we are working tirelessly to make sure we get proper papers and whatever, but it's in the workings, and Emir Hashem, we'll be back together. Klape, the oilam that is in Eretz Yisrael, we are trying this week already to try to get back. As of today, Bez Hashem, we're deciding where exactly that get together is going to be. Bez Hashem and Mitzvah Hashem. This should not, as it stands, affect the Zoom. As it stands, we're trying to do it that the Seder is going to be between 3 and 4:45, and that therefore the Zoom will continue from 4:45 to 5:45. That's in Mitzvah Hashem what we're trying to work, at least for this month in Mitzvah Hashem. That's what we're going to try to work out. And obviously that means the Seder will be first. So that means that Micha and Rabbi Fiskes and Rabbi Schlisselfeld, you guys have to wake up, and everybody else in America. But you guys got to wake up and daven at 6 so you can have the Seder between 7 and 8:45. Oh no, not so bad. No, between 8 and 9:45, you'll have the Seder, right? While we're having the Seder here between 3 and 4:45. Number 2 is that today was sent out in the email that said that there's a shir, was sent out all the, I need whoever, with Shmir Sestarim for last man, and whoever wants the Bechina, and all the different Zachen. Please take a look at the email and interesting things about that thought. If you could, it might be coming to you money from that thought. Now you're for sure going to look, right? There's that thought and whatever, all different Zachen. That's number 3. Number 4, and this is the most important, at least for right now. Whoever is in Eretz Yisrael, I am asking you, please, to call me today. If you want right now, I have to share. Just I know you're here and know you're coming tomorrow. It makes a difference how many people we're having and how many people are coming. I understand that Rabbi Preshberger is not in Eretz Yisrael, but there are those that are yes in Eretz Yisrael. If you are here, and don't assume, well, he knows me. Nussi, he doesn't know I'm here. Come on, of course he knows I'm here. What do you mean, right? Whoever, please just call me so I can make a piece of paper. And don't call me to tell me you're not in Eretz Yisrael. Dovi, I know you're not here. And Rabbi Sitko, I know you're not here. Rabbi Schlitzelfeld, I don't need a phone call to say you're not here. I know you're not here. And in the years Hashem, you'll be here soon. But please call me. It's very, very important. Good Chaydish, Rabbi Isai. It's been 2.5 months of this, Rabbi Isai. Ich habe genug gehabt. Es ist schon genug. Der Rebbe soll helfen, Taka. Das ist eine gute Chaydish. A Chaydish of Yeshuas and Refuas for ganz Klal Yisrael and the Gula Shlema and Hera V'Yameinu. Amen. Ich habe genug gehabt, Rabbi Isai.